Welcome to Echo of Crime YouTube channel. In the late 1970s and 1980s, the Midwest appeared far removed from the kind of violence that would later shock the nation. Cities like Milwaukee were seen as quiet, working-class communities where people lived routine lives, trusted their neighbors, and rarely imagined extreme danger close to home. It was within this ordinary setting that Jeffrey Dahmer managed to hide one of the most horrific crime sprees in U.S. history, often without raising serious suspicion. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in 1960 and grew up in a seemingly normal suburban household. From the outside, there was little to suggest what he would become. He struggled socially, had difficulty forming relationships, and battled alcoholism from a young age, but none of this set off alarms. After high school, Dahmer drifted through short-term jobs and periods of instability. By the late 1980s, he was living alone in a modest apartment building in Milwaukee, blending in with other residents who viewed him as quiet, awkward, but largely unremarkable. Behind closed doors, however, Dahmer was committing acts of violence that went completely unnoticed by the public. His crimes targeted young men, many of whom were marginalized and unlikely to receive immediate attention when they went missing. Dahmer often met his victims in public places, offering money for photographs or drinks, which made his interactions appear consensual and ordinary. This allowed him to operate openly, without drawing suspicion from bystanders or authorities. One of the most disturbing aspects of Chapter 1 is how often warning signs were overlooked. Neighbors complained about strong, unpleasant odors coming from Dahmer's apartment. Strange noises were reported. Police were called more than once, but explanations were accepted without deeper investigation. In a society that trusted appearances, Dahmer's calm demeanor and unassuming presence worked in his favor. He did not fit the public image of a dangerous criminal, and that assumption proved deadly. By the early 1990s, Dahmer had already taken numerous lives, yet remained free. Missing persons cases began to accumulate quietly, often without connection. Families searched for answers, unaware that the man responsible was living openly, shopping at local stores, and interacting with neighbors daily. The system failed not once, but repeatedly, allowing Dahmer to continue his crimes while hiding in plain sight. Chilling realization: Jeffrey Dahmer was not hiding in the shadows or remote locations. He was living among ordinary people, protected by assumptions, overlooked warnings, and institutional failures. His story begins not with capture or justice, but with invisibility, an ordinary life that concealed extraordinary evil, setting the stage for one of the most devastating criminal cases in American history. As the years passed, Jeffrey Dahmer grew more confident in his ability to avoid detection. By the late 1980s, his crimes had become more frequent, and the risks he took increased dramatically. Yet, despite repeated warning signs, law enforcement failures, and social blind spots allowed him to continue operating openly. Dahmer's apartment became the center of his crimes, a place where horrific acts occurred behind a door that neighbors passed every day without knowing what was inside. Dahmer's method relied heavily on manipulation rather than force. He often approached victims in public places, bars, bus stops, shopping areas, offering money for drinks or photographs. To outsiders, these encounters appeared consensual and harmless. Many of his victims were young men from vulnerable communities, and when they disappeared, their cases did not always receive immediate or sustained attention. This lack of urgency played directly into Dahmer's ability to remain unnoticed. Multiple chances to stop Dahmer were missed. Neighbors repeatedly complained to police about foul odors coming from his apartment, which Dahmer explained away as spoiled food or plumbing issues. Officers accepted these explanations without further inspection. In one of the most infamous failures, police encountered a victim who had escaped Dahmer but was disoriented and injured. Despite witnesses insisting something was wrong, officers believed Dahmer's claim that the situation was a domestic dispute and returned the victim to him. That decision allowed Dahmer to continue killing and later became a symbol of systemic failure and bias. Inside his apartment, Dahmer kept disturbing evidence of his crimes for extended periods of time. Yet no thorough search was conducted until it was too late. His ability to appear calm, cooperative, and non-threatening shielded him from suspicion. He was not hiding in abandoned buildings or remote locations. He was living in a densely populated apartment complex, interacting with neighbors, paying rent, and living what appeared to be an unremarkable life. As missing persons cases slowly accumulated, no clear pattern was recognized. Families searched for answers, often unaware that the person responsible was already known to police through multiple prior encounters. Each missed opportunity compounded the damage, allowing Dahmer's crimes to continue unchecked. By the time attention finally began to focus on him, the number of victims had already reached a horrifying scale. The uncomfortable truth behind the case: Jeffrey Dahmer was not invisible because he was clever alone, but because systems meant to protect people repeatedly failed. Assumptions were made, concerns were dismissed, and warnings were ignored. This chapter is not only about a killer's actions. It is about how easily danger can hide when society chooses comfort over confrontation, and how devastating the consequences can be when obvious signs are overlooked. The end of Jeffrey Dahmer's reign came suddenly, but far too late. On July 22, 1991, a young man managed to escape Dahmer's apartment and ran into the street, disoriented and frightened. Police were called, and this time, officers followed the victim back to Dahmer's apartment. What they found inside marked one of the most shocking crime scene discoveries in American history, and immediately ended years of unnoticed violence. Inside the apartment, officers discovered photographs documenting Dahmer's crimes, human remains, and evidence that confirmed what neighbors and witnesses had feared for years. The scale of the crimes stunned investigators. Dahmer was arrested on the spot and, when questioned, began confessing in detail. Unlike many criminals, he did not deny his actions. Instead, he calmly described his murders, offering a chilling account of how long he had been operating without detection. His confessions revealed that his crimes spanned more than a decade, across multiple states. The legal process moved quickly compared to the years of silence that preceded it. Dahmer was charged with multiple counts of murder, and in 1992 was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom proceedings were heavily covered by the media, as the public tried to understand how such extreme crimes could have gone unnoticed for so long. Families of victims faced the painful reality that justice, while delivered, could never undo the damage or restore what was lost. Beyond the conviction, the case triggered national reflection and outrage. Investigations revealed serious law enforcement failures, missed warnings, and systemic biases that contributed to Dahmer's ability to operate freely. Police departments faced criticism for ignoring complaints, dismissing witnesses, and failing to protect vulnerable individuals. The case became a turning point in discussions about policing, accountability, and how certain communities are treated when they report danger. Dahmer's story did not end with his sentencing. In prison, he became a symbol of irreversible consequences, both of his actions and of institutional failure. He was murdered by another inmate in 1994, ending his life but not the questions surrounding his case. His death brought no closure to many families, and it did nothing to erase the lessons the case exposed. Lasting impact that extends far beyond one individual. The Jeffrey Dahmer case is remembered not only for its brutality, but for how easily warning signs were ignored and how close danger lived to everyday life. It stands as a reminder that evil does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in routine, silence, and unchecked assumptions.